Texas is a focal point in the essential fight for your religious freedom, and that's why we're having this special conversation today, just for those of us who live here in the Lone Star State. I'm Stuart Shepard, along with my friend and colleague Kelly Shackelford, who just happens to be the president and CEO of First Liberty Institute. Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Stuart.
Because it's Christmas, I put these into some categories. So these are going to come under the headings of justice, and we have compassion, and we have caring for others, all of which are themes that we hear about this time of year. So we're going to start out with justice for churches in Magnolia, Texas, a town a lot of people may not have heard of, but they kind of made the news because of some unfair charges that were sent their way by virtue of their local government. They've gotten some good news. Update us on that case. What's going on?
Well, first I would tell people, they might say, why are we not hearing about these cases you're talking about in Texas? It's because we're doing cases all over the country, and we can't keep everybody involved on every case. But we thought, people in Texas need to know what's happening in Texas. They might think this is all happening in some other state.
Yeah.
Magnolia is an example. This is like something you would think would happen maybe in, New York City or somewhere else. They decided in Magnolia that the churches really weren't paying their fair share. And so what they wanted to do is figure out a way. They knew it wasn't legal to tax churches.
Yeah.
So they came up with the idea of, well, why don't we just massively increase their water fees, and we won't call it a tax. So we'll increase it by almost 200%, and that way we'll kind of tax them. The problem with that is they stated publicly what they were doing.
Oops.
So not a great idea if you're trying to violate the law to admit it in public. And so they realized they were in trouble when we came to represent the church, and really all the churches in that area ultimately. And what they did is they tried to sneak by filing a bond with the state of Texas, something that had nothing to do with this, and then attach this kind of in secret, and then say, oh, sorry, it's already done. And we then were able to come in, appeal that, and say, no, you don't not give citizens their day in court in the state of Texas. And so we just had that reversed to where now they will have to face up to what they've done. And they're going to have some serious problems because in this country, you don't tax churches. And certainly you don't in Texas, where the law is very clear that that's not what we do. I think the whole mindset is just bizarre. The idea that churches are of no value, and therefore you need to see if you can get some money out of them. How many dollars do you think Magnolia saves by having churches reach out to people, help people who are in need, reduce crime, visit families? I mean, there's just a multitude of ways they're saving the city massive amounts of money, and some people in the city council think it's a great idea to go after the churches. We're going to make sure that that's not successful.
And two key points on that. One, it seems like whenever government talks about fairness in taxes, it never has to do with reducing our taxes. It's always finding somebody new that they can throw taxes at, in this case the churches. And two, this is not a final win. This is a win that was necessary in order just to be able to fight this case.
Get your day in court.
Yeah.
I mean, they tried to do a little sneaky maneuver to hide to where, the churches never even got their day in court. Well, because of our victory, we're now going to have our day in court.
Second, compassion. I remember watching this when it happened. It's a Dallas-oriented story, but it made news all over the country. And that's when a judge who had in front of her a person who admittedly was guilty of killing another person, she felt compassion for her. She felt for her, so she, after pronouncing judgment, gave her a hug and a Bible. Tell us about that case.
I think that was a video or a clip or whatever that really made the entire country feel good about America. You had a situation where an off-duty police officer accidentally went into the wrong apartment and shot and killed someone.
Yeah.
So a really tragic story. And at the end of a very emotional trial, when you had a person that was already convicted, already sentenced,
already admitted.
Yeah, and the judge showed compassion by hugging this person and giving them a Bible. And of course, there are people immediately that wanted to ban any show of mercy or grace like that, or love. That's what we're fighting against. I mean, we need less of that in this country. That's exactly what we need in this country. And so what Judge Kemp did is not only okay, it is exactly what we need in the compassion and love of justice, who followed the law, who executed the law exactly like they were supposed to, but then also acted like a human being.
And she's currently under investigation for that, and that's where we enter the story to
Absolutely.
at least offer some defense to her.
Absolutely. I mean, we got to make, I mean, if she's made an example of in some way that you don't do this, then guess what? No other judge can ever show this kind of compassion. And again, somehow you could probably hand people any sort of book you want, just don't hand them the Bible. That's not what this country, the religious freedom this country was built on. So we're certainly going to do, everything we can to make sure that this doesn't happen. Also, I would point out to people, this is in Texas. Okay, you're not hearing about a lot of these because we have so many cases around the country, but this is not just happening in other places. This is happening in your backyard, and so it's really important that we win the battles in Texas. If you can't win in Texas, you're not going to win anywhere in the country in these battles.
Third topic is caring for others, something we talk about a lot come Christmas time. And this is a church on the south side of Dallas that's been reaching out to the local community, trying to help people who are in need. And the government comes along and literally wants to take the property away. What's that all about?
Well, the city of Duncanville has decided that they can use the church's property better than the church can. An incredibly arrogant, move to take the property of the church to use it for what the city thinks are better purposes. God forbid this ever become, something that's allowed. Whenever the government doesn't like the church, they'll just take some of their property. We're fighting against that to make sure that they're not successful. What a way to wish a Merry Christmas than to have the government go after the church and try to steal their property from them.
Now, those are three that we wanted to highlight, but there are many other cases that we're working in Texas right now. You want to hit a few of the highlights?
Well, yeah. There's, how many people, think that it's okay for them to put a cross in their own yard? Well, evidently not in some homeowners associations around Texas. We're working on that. What do you need around Christmas? How about churches that are taking care of the homeless, that are, really loving and caring for the homeless that are in our cities? Well, we've got a city who's actually attacking the church for doing that. So there are a number of these cases in the works that, we try to avoid having to go into court, but a lot of times they force us to do so. And I think the important thing of this whole discussion, though, is I think people tend to get a little lax in Texas and thinking that, it's different in Texas. Yeah. These battles are everywhere. There is nowhere to run. And this is not only about protecting religious freedom for somebody like Gail Blair in Rhode Island. It's about protecting religious freedom in your community, where your kids and your grandkids. It's about the future of Texas as well as the future of the country.
Very good. Kelly, thank you for sharing all those stories and keeping us updated. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, Stuart.
And thank you for being part of this. If these stories resonate with you, if you'd like to be part of the solution to these kind of problems right here in Texas, we invite you to take part in what we have going on right now, which is a challenge grant as we come up on the end of the calendar year. It was $500,000, but recently it was up to $600,000 in a challenge grant. That means you can essentially maximize your donation right now through the end of the year if you give now to help the churches, communities, and individuals that Kelly was just talking about. We want you to be part of this, and you can affect change right here in Texas. Kelly, thanks again.
Thank you.